Hello, I'm Tim Wilde, and this year in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in our Sunday School hour, we are studying the Book of Mormon in the Come Follow Me program. And I decided this year that I was going to try to upload a video every week with just the very basic, simplest ideas of whatever I got out of the general reading. If I was teaching a lesson, if I came up with one point in the discussion where I said, this is the biggest thing that stood out to me, whatever I put in this video is probably the most irrelevant thing that I was sharing. I'm currently not a Sunday school teacher, and I'm just a regular student of the gospel like everyone else. And I just wanted to share just my thoughts about whatever the weekly reading is. Not going to be bearing my testimony because I don't feel that's totally appropriate on a YouTube video like this, but I just wanted to share just what my insights were. Not that I have deep, inspiring thoughts or ideas. It's just what I got out of it. Take it or leave it. But this week, the first week was December 30th through January 5th. That's the week. And the lesson or the reading assignment was the introductory pages of the Book of Mormon. So these are the Wilde thoughts on the introductory pages of the Book of Mormon, specifically the witnesses. There's things I could talk about, the other things, the title page, the introduction, and the breakdown of books, whatever, but I'm not trying to teach that stuff. What I got out of the reading about the 3 and 8 witnesses was mostly from what some other people have asked me. In the last 24 hours, I've had 2 different people I've had discussions with who actually did the reading, so props to them. It excites me that other people are reading it. They said, Tim, don't you think it'd be a lot more powerful if the 3 witnesses all stayed in the church, if they didn't fall away? And the other person said, isn't it terrible that the 3 of them couldn't hang in there and that they fell away from the church? This makes it it's a black mark on the book or on the testimony or the work. They weren't specifically trying to be dramatic about it, but I had 2 different people in different conversations ask me that same topic. I don't have all the answers to everything, but what I shared with them is this, and this is my biggest insight whenever I read the witnesses, the 3 and the 8. To me, it is such a more powerful revelation or witness that they all fell away. And I got this from a lecture years ago, that the 3 witnesses, if you have like a conspiracy or a hoax or something like that, the scheme that everyone believes that the original leaders in the church were setting up for what was coming out with the Book of Mormon and the rest of the revelations, the Doctrine and Covenants, the organization of the church, the priesthood, everything. If you had those main people, the first people in the group who were bringing out the Book of Mormon, like the 3 witnesses, especially the scribes, if they were to all have stayed strong and were really close in a friendship and a bondship that they were in the organization of the church, it'd be a very difficult thing to convince people that it wasn't a hoax. I mean, you could, obviously through the Spirit and revelation you could, but when you take those original leaders of the church and that they all fell away through monetary or financial or in church government, political or personal pride or different reasons and excuses that they had, reasons that they fell away, when you had that band dissolve, that's when they would come out and say it was a hoax. If Oliver Cowdery, Martin Harrison, and David Whitmer had not actually seen what they said they saw, when they were all disowned or kicked out or left by their own desire from the church, body of the church, they would have been the first ones to turn on the prophet Joseph and to tell him, or to share with everyone else, it was all a lie. The fact that they all fell away from the church and every single one of them defended to their dying breaths, literally, that the revelation that they received, the voice from God, the vision of the angels, touching the plates, what was on the plates that they saw, and hearing the words of the Lord, and the testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith, that all was real. To their dying breaths, they said that. That is a more powerful thing to me. And if you're looking in like a court or something, that those witnesses, with all the personal struggles that they had amongst each other, that makes it a more solid testimony of that. In spite of all that drama and all that stuff going on between them, they still maintained that was the truth. I love that, and I love that concept that the 3 witnesses all fell away but it had nothing to do with the divinity of the work or the record or the truth of what happened that day. I love that. That's my favorite thing about it. The only thing about the 8 witnesses that I might think is cool that, and this was, I can't remember where this was brought out in my life, but the 3 witnesses are a lot more spiritual. There's angels and the voice of God and all that stuff, and all kind of the revelation kind of stuff, spiritual kind of stuff, where if someone was like, I don't believe in angels, I don't believe it, they saw those things, they were all smoking or something. If anyone had that kind of a approach to that testimony or an argument, because they don't believe in that stuff, the 8 witnesses were entirely, both of all sober minds, but they were entirely just standard temporal witnesses who physically saw and touched something, that they observed an object and described what it was and testified that it was real, that Joseph actually had the plates, that they were able to see them. I think that's really neat because there's a distinction between the spiritual stuff that people may have a hang up with the revelations and angels from the 3 witnesses, and then with them falling away and everything. How could you fall away after you saw an angel? That's not what their falling away was about, but they never denied what they saw. But the 8 witnesses, if you want to just look at just regular men who could see it, like if Joseph was able to just show anyone, there's 8 people that got to see it. That's 11 powerful testimonies. I just love that. I think it's just neat that the contrast between the 2 of them, the 2 different groups and the way they did their testimony. As far as Joseph Smith testimony, the only thing I'm going to share is, just because this is so unknown, this is an Institute manual from years ago. This is from 1979. I just looked at the date on it. This is the Presence of the Church manual, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And there's a record in here. It's just going through each of the prophets and just kind of gives their biography, some stories and things like that. And I've never heard this story ever shared outside of this book. And I heard it in an Institute class years and years and years ago. That's the only reason I even knew it existed, because I have a lot of volumes of Institute manuals. I've not read through all of them by any means, but this is a treasure to me. I think it's so neat. It's about Brigham Young, not about Joseph Smith. As we just read the testimony of Joseph Smith, this comes from the Church Library Archives, from the Young Richards family meeting in Nauvoo in January 18th, 1845. That's where this comes from. But this is what it says, and it's amazing to me. As Joseph Smith labored up the side of the hill Cumorah on September 22nd, 1827, cosmic battle swirled and rampaged. This battle between the forces of light and darkness had raged from the first foundation of this tremendously important world, but now, with the Book of Mormon, the keystone of the Lord's revealed religion, about to come forth, it took on a new fury and intensity. Why? Because the coming forth of the book signaled clearly the beginning of the end of the kingdom of hell. Babylon the Great was about to fall, not without an earnest, world-wrenching contest. Lucifer was unleashing all his forces. In full fury, the legions of the adversary would try to thwart the purposes of God, and so the armies of light and darkness marched. So as Joseph toiled, the armies marshaled. The world slept in ignorance of the book and the battle. But only a few miles away, within hours after Joseph secured the plates of the book, a man, Brigham Young, saw the angels of light descended in preparation for the battle of the King of Kings. Though it would be over 4 years before he would comprehend the meaning of what he was then seeing, yet the veil was taken from his eyes, and in the nighttime's western sky towards Cumorah, he saw a bright light. Calling his wife excitedly to his side, they watched in amazement as for 2 hours the shimmering light formed itself into marching armies. It says, little did Brigham know that the vision came in accord with divine foreordination, but such was the case, and soon he would lead the people of God and the forces of righteousness as a prophet, seer, and revelator. But on the night of September 22nd, all he could do was wonder at what great sign had been given. I think it's an amazing story, and I've never studied the life of Brigham Young to the extent that I know what he would have been doing down in that time. But the same night that Joseph received the plates from the angel, and we know the story of them trying to ambush him, the locals trying to get it from him on his way back to his farm. In spite of all of that, Brigham Young nearby saw this battle and these angels in this revelation. I think that's just amazing to hear. You don't hear about that battle and those angels in Joseph Smith's record, but I don't know if he didn't see if the veil wasn't removed for him versus Brigham for him to see as a story. But I could just picture when when Brigham Young later on was hearing the testimony of the Book of Mormon, and he felt the Spirit in that small meeting in a friend's home, as we know his conversion story. Later on, as he got more of the details and found out about the translation and the visitations of Moroni and where he was and when it happened, I can just see it clicking in Brigham's mind that I was there and that what that vision really was. I think that is so powerful and it's moving. It's just neat that the Lord had unified those two great prophets, Joseph and Brigham, in that one event, and that they were both kind of involved in their own way on two sides of I guess the veil between them, what was happening. But anyway, I just think that's so powerful. I'm not, if I continue these videos, I'm not going to sit there and try and lecture and teach the gospel, but that is such an unknown story that I never hear from anywhere. I just wanted to share it. Anyway, I love this section. I love the reading. I love the witnesses. And I just hope that this is my way. This is a thing I can do to try and help share my witness with the whole world that the Book of Mormon is true and that Jesus is the Christ and that the plan of our Heavenly Father can be found in his pages in the fullness. That's all. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Tim's Wild Thoughts on Come Follow Me 2020. Thanks, guys.